The serranía of western Spain stretched out like a lover's rumpled sheets in the early morning light, all jagged sierras and hidden valleys that whispered of forgotten passions. I'd come back to Ronda 6 months ago, not for the postcard views or the white-knuckle walks across the Puente Nuevo, but because Abuela Rosa had finally lost her battle with the cancer that had gnawed at her for years. She was the anchor of our fractured American-Spanish clan. My mother's side, émigrés from Ohio who chased olive oil dreams to Malaga in the 70s, only to build a boutique empire of vineyards and artisan soaps that masked deeper rot. I was Clara Hayes, 28 and adrift, a graphic designer from Brooklyn who traded skyscrapers for stone walls because Abuela begged me to. The house in the hills, Clara. It's yours when I'm gone. But promise me you'll breathe life into it again. Her eyes, faded blue like cornflowers past their prime, had held mine with that unyielding grip, the one that said she saw through my city armor to the girl who'd once chased fireflies in her groves. The family gathered for the funeral in the village church, a squat affair of ochre plaster and incense that clung to your clothes like regret. My Aunt Lydia, Abuela's eldest, swept in from her villa in Marbella, her Botox-smooth face a mask of performative grief, diamonds glinting on fingers that had long ago pawned sentiment for status. Uncle Victor, the brooding winemaker with a mustache like a broom left out in the rain, hovered at the edges, his eyes darting to the collection plate as if calculating ties. And Elena, my cousin, 25 and sharp as a switchblade, the one I'd shared secrets with under olive trees as kids, she arrived last, her designer heels clicking like accusations, a bottle of our family's rosado tucked under her arm like a peace offering that tasted of poison. We buried Abuela in the family plot overlooking the gorge, the earth red and unyielding, and as the priest droned in Spanish laced with English for the gringos in the pews, I felt Cora's gaze from across the aisle. She was the village potter, 27, with hands that shaped clay like she coaxed confessions from the earth. Strong, calloused, dusted in terracotta. We'd met months earlier at the weekly mercado, where her stall overflowed with mugs etched in swirling patterns that evoked the wind through the pines. I'd bought a vase on impulse, our fingers brushing over the cool ceramic, and something electric passed between us, like the first spark of a brush fire in dry grass. After the service, as mourners milled with plates of jamon and manchego, Cora slipped me a note folded into the shape of a leaf. Meet me at the Mirador tonight. We need to talk about the stars. My pulse quickened. In Ronda, the stars weren't just lights. They were maps to hidden truths, the kind Abuela used to trace with her gnarled fingers while spinning tales of lost lovers and reclaimed lands. That night, the air hummed with the scent of jasmine and impending rain, and I found Cora at the edge of the Mirador, her silhouette etched against the void of the gorge. She turned as I approached, her dark curls catching the moonlight, hazel eyes reflecting the infinite drop below. Clara, she said, her voice a low melody laced with that Andalusian lilt. Your Abuela. She was a force. Like you. We talked for hours perched on the stone wall, legs dangling over the abyss, sharing stories that bridged our worlds. My chaotic New York freelance gigs versus her rooted life in the studio, fingers forever stained with clay. When our hands intertwined, tentative at first, then fierce, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never known existed. Her kiss was salt and earth, tentative explorations that left me breathless, whispering promises into the night. Stay, she murmured against my lips. Ronda needs you. I need you. But the family web tightened the next day, when Lydia summoned us to Abuela's finca. The old stone farmhouse nestled in the hills, its terracotta roof sagging under vines heavy with grapes. The reading of the will was set for noon, and as we assembled in the sala with its faded tapestries and the grandfather clock ticking like a heartbeat, I sensed the undercurrent of greed. Victor poured Tempranillo into mismatched glasses, his mustache twitching, while Elena lounged on the settee, scrolling her phone with feigned disinterest. The notary, a bespectacled man from town named Señor Alvarez, cleared his throat and unfolded the crisp pages. Abuela's script was elegant, looping like the roads that wound through the Sierras. The vineyard? Split evenly among the siblings, Lydia, Victor, and my late mother's share to me. The house? Mine outright, with provisions for its restoration. And the emeralds, Abuela's prized necklace, heirlooms from her flamenco dancing youth in Seville, left specifically to me, to remind Clara of the fire in her veins. Lydia's glass clinked sharply against the table. This is outrageous. Rosa always favored you, Clara. The American stray. Her voice dripped venom, eyes narrowing to slits. Victor grunted agreement, swirling his wine like he could drown the injustice. Elena said nothing, but her smile was a razor, promising cuts yet to come. I left the finca with my head high, the key to the house burning in my pocket, but doubt gnawed at me. Cora met me at the gate, her truck idling with clay-splattered sides. "What happened?" she asked, pulling me into the cab where the air smelled of wet earth and possibility. "They hate me for it," I confessed, leaning into her shoulder. But Abuela knew. She built walls around this gift. Cora's fingers traced my jaw, soft as a prayer. "Then lean on them. And on me." That night, in the quiet of her cottage on the outskirts, with the windows open to the cricket chorus, we mapped our future, restoring the finca together, blending my designs with her ceramics into something new, a life woven from clay and color. Her touch was reverent, exploring the curves of my grief with a tenderness that mended fractures I hadn't named. We didn't rush. It was a slow unraveling, layers of vulnerability shared in whispers and sighs, building a sanctuary amid the storm. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of sun-soaked days. Me sketching logos for the vineyard's relaunch, envisioning bold American graphics infused with Spanish soul. Cora throwing pots on her wheel, her foot pedals syncing with the pulse of reggaeton from the radio. We'd steal moments in the groves, picnics of pan con tomate and stolen kisses, her laughter echoing like bells when I'd trip over roots, too lost in her eyes to watch my step. But the shadows lengthened. Elena started visiting unannounced, her perfume cloying as she helped sort Abuela's papers. "You always were the golden child," she'd say, rifling through drawers with manicured nails. Victor's calls grew curt, demanding access to the emeralds for safekeeping. Lydia's emails were missives of manipulation. "Family first, Clara. Or have you forgotten your roots?" I confided in Cora one evening, as we hiked the sendero to the old mill, the path lined with cork oaks shedding their bark like old skins. "They're circling," I said, voice tight. "Like they think I'll crack." She stopped, turning me to face her, hands firm on my arms. "You won't. Your rose's fire." Her kiss grounded me, fierce and affirming, a vow etched in the fading light. But as we descended, my phone buzzed, a text from Elena. "Check the safe in the attic. Surprise waiting." Heart pounding, I drove back alone, the finca looming like a sentinel in the twilight. The attic stairs creaked underfoot, dust motes dancing in my flashlight beam. The safe, Abuela's relic from the Civil War era, yawned open, its door ajar. Inside, empty velvet trays where the emeralds should have gleamed. A single card. "Thief." Panic clawed my throat. I'd locked that safe myself after the will reading, the combination Abuela's birthday whispered only to me. Someone had been here, someone with keys, with access. I slammed the door shut, dialing Cora with trembling fingers. "They're framing me. The necklace, it's gone." Her voice cut through the static. "I'm coming. Don't touch anything." But sirens pierced the night before she arrived, blue lights flashing up the drive. Lydia's doing, no doubt, her anonymous tip to the Guardia Civil, painting me as the prodigal daughter turned plunder. As officers swarmed the attic, flashlights carving shadows, Victor's truck rumbled in behind them, Elena at his side, her face a portrait of righteous fury. "You're under arrest for theft," the lead officer intoned, cuffs cold against my wrists. Cora burst through the door then, wild-eyed, shoving past Victor to reach me. "Clara, this is madness, they're lying." Elena's laugh was brittle. "Save it for the judge, Potter girl. Clara's always been jealous. Now she's stolen what's ours." Dragged to the station in Rhonda's underbelly, the cell's chill seeped into my bones, but Cora's parting words echoed. "I believe you. Fight." Alone in the dim, I traced the bars, Abuela's voice a ghost. "Blood isn't always thicker." But as dawn bled gray through the window, I wondered if love could withstand the noose of family lies. The interrogation room smelled of stale coffee and desperation, the fluorescent buzz overhead syncing with the throb in my temples. Officer Ramirez, a stocky man with a mustache that rivaled Victor's, leaned across the scarred table. His notepad flipped open like a judgment. "Señorita Hayes, the safe was forced? Or did you use the combination your grandmother trusted you with?" I met his gaze, steady despite the quake in my gut. "I didn't touch it. Last time I checked, everything was there. Post-reading under lock and key. My voice held, laced with the defiance Abuela had instilled, the kind that survived Franco's shadows and Franco's airs. He scribbled, unconvinced. Your aunt says you argued about the inheritance, that you threatened to sell the finca out from under the family. Lies, all of it. Lydia twisting our post-will barbs into motive, Elena's witness account of me lurking in the attic days prior. Across town, Cora paced the Potters Guild Hall, her friends, a wiry sculptor named Mateo and a weaver called Ines, flanking her like sentinels. We need proof, she insisted, slamming a mug onto the communal table, coffee sloshing like her frayed nerves. Clara's innocent. It's them, the vultures picking at Rose's corpse. Ines, with her silver-streaked braids and eyes sharp as her loom needles, nodded. Start with alibis. Where was Elena that afternoon? Cora's mind raced back. Elena's errand to Malaga. Her truck vanishing mid-morning. She has a key. Abuela gave spares to all of us kids. A key and opportunity. But evidence. Slippery as wet clay. By noon, bail was posted, courtesy of Cora's frantic crowdfunding among the artisan crowd, and I emerged into the plaza blinking against the sun, her arms enveloping me before I could speak. You're out, she breathed, her curls tickling my cheek. But this isn't over. We retreated to her cottage, the door bolted against the world, where the air hung heavy with unspoken fears. I collapsed onto the worn sofa, the weight of cuffs lingering like phantom chains. They'll bury me, Cora. The emerald's worth a fortune. Lydia's already lawyered up, spinning tales to the tabloids. She knelt before me, hands on my knees, her touch a lifeline. Not if we dig first. Her eyes, hazel flecked with gold, held the gorge's depth, unfathomable, unyielding. We spent the afternoon poring over Abuela's ledgers, hidden in a trunk beneath the finca's floorboards, entries in her spidery hand detailing family debts, Victor's gambling slips, Lydia's offshore accounts. Look, Cora pointed. A notation here. Ease folly 50K. Elena's student loans? Paid off mysteriously last year. A thread thin but tantalizing. But as dusk fell, my phone erupted. Victor's number. Stay away from the finca, Clara. Or you'll regret it. The line went dead. His threat a growl that chilled deeper than the cell. That night, sleep evaded us, tangled in Cora's sheets that smelled of lavender and clay dust. She held me close, our bodies fitting like puzzle pieces forged in fire, her leg draped over mine, breath sinking in the quiet. Tell me about New York, she whispered, diverting from the dread. The lights, the chaos. Did it ever feel like this? Like the ground shifting. I traced the constellation of freckles across her collarbone, voice muffled against her skin. Never. There I was invisible. Here. With you. I'm seen. Our kisses deepened then, not frantic but anchoring. A reclamation of agency and touches that spoke of endurance. Her fingers wove through my hair, pulling me nearer, and in that cocoon betrayal felt distant, love a bulwark against the tide. Morning brought allies. Señor Alvarez, the notary, arriving unbidden at the cottage with a satchel of documents. Rosa anticipated treachery, he said, adjusting his glasses, voice a conspiratorial rumble. The will has contingencies, clauses triggered by false accusations. But we need the emeralds recovered to activate them fully. We drove to the finca under a sky bruised with clouds, the property now cordoned like a crime scene. Ramirez met us at the gate, his expression softening at Cora's earnest plea. A private search? Unofficial. He relented, citing community ties. And we combed the attic anew. Cora's I caught it first. A loose floorboard, nails fresh and gleaming. Beneath, wrapped in oilcloth, not emeralds but a ledger addendum. Abuela's final codicil, dated days before her death. To Clara. If shadows fall upon thee, seek the grove's heart. The true gems lie not in stone but in soil. A map sketched in margins led to the olive grove's ancient stump, where roots twisted like lovers' limbs. We unearthed it at twilight, the necklace buried shallow in a tin, emeralds winking like defiant stars. She hid them, I gasped, clutching the cool metal. Knew they'd come for me. Ramirez whistled low. This changes everything. Charges dropped. Framing attempt exposed. But as we emerged, Elena's car screeched up the drive, her face ashen, Victor looming shotgun. You! she shrieked, lunging for the tin. Cora stepped between us, unyielding. It's over, Elena. The truth's out. In the scuffle, hands grappling, no blows landed. Victor's confession spilled like bad wine. It was for the debts. Lydia's idea, but Elena. She picked the lock. Betrayal's bitter fruit, rotten to the core. The family imploded that week. Headlines in the Sur in English for the expat crowd. Rhonda dynasty fractures over forged theft. Lydia fled to Marbella, Victor to rehab in Seville, Elena arrested for tampering, her tear-streaked plea in the station. I did it for us, Clara. You were leaving with everything. A hollow echo of sibling bonds severed. Cora and I fortified the finca, turning attic dust to design studio, her kiln firing in the old barn. Love deepened in the rebuild. Nights debating color palettes over gazpacho. Mornings waking to her sketches of us intertwined in graphite dreams. You're my horizon, she'd say, hazel eyes soft, and I'd believe in horizons again. Yet peace was fragile. A month later, Alvarez summoned us to his office, the codicil's full bloom revealed. Abuela's trust ironclad, vesting the vineyard's majority in me upon vindication, with shares earmarked for the one who stands in storm. Cora's name, inked discreetly. Abuela's intuition, spotting our spark at family gatherings. Tears pricked as I read it aloud. She knew. Saw us before we did. Cora's laugh bubbled, pulling me close. Rosa was a romantic. Like her granddaughter. In that sunlit room with papers rustling like approval, we kissed, sealed, sovereign. But drama's echo lingered. Elena's trial loomed, her letters from jail a barrage of remorse. Forgive me, Prima. Blood called, but love answers. I visited once, the plexiglass between us a metaphor for fractures mending slow. Why? I asked, voice raw. Jealousy, she admitted, eyes downcast. You had her heart. We had her scraps. Human frailty laid bare. No villains, just the wounded lashing out. As autumn gilded the groves, Cora and I hosted the Harvest Festival, tables groaning under our hybrid wares, ceramics etched with Brooklyn bridges, labels blending Yankee bold with Iberian grace. Locals toasted. A Las Valientes. To the brave ones, and in the dance her hand in mine spins under lantern light, I felt Abuela's fire ignite anew. Yet one eve as stars wheeled overhead, a shadow crossed the mirador. Lydia, uninvited, her face gaunt sans fillers. I was wrong, she said, voice cracking. Rosa's will. Protected you. But can family? I hesitated, Cora's grip steadying. Maybe. If we rebuild brick by truth. She nodded, tears carving channels. Teach me. In that fragile truce humanism bloomed. Forgiveness not erasure but evolution. Cora and I, entwined on the wall's edge, watched the gorge swallow the night. Our love the bridge spanning chasms. Winter crept into Rhonda like a cautious suitor, frosting the olive leaves and muting the gorge's roar to a hush. The finca, once a mausoleum of memories, pulsed with life under our hands. Cora's pots glazing in rainbow arcs on the shelves, my digital sketches blooming into murals on the sala walls, vivid strokes of sienna earth meeting electric blue skies. We'd hired locals for the vineyard prune, Mateo leading crews with his lopsided grin, Ines weaving baskets from the trimmings to sell at market. Love in those months was a quiet revolution. Mornings began with coffee on the terrace, Cora's head on my lap as I read aloud from Abuela's journals, tales of her youth, dancing sayetas in Seville's Triana, evading suitors for stolen glances with a guitarist's daughter. She lived it first, Cora murmured, fingers interlacing with mine. The fire in the veins. Our intimacy unfolded like the seasons, tender explorations in the hammock strung between cork oaks, her laughter vibrating against my skin as we'd sway, plotting expansions. A gallery for her work, infused with my graphics, drawing tourists from the Puente Nuevo trail. Nights were symphonies of shared breaths, her body a landscape I mapped with reverence. Curves that spoke of strength, whispers that healed the scars of betrayal. No rush, no conquest. Just us weaving souls in the loom of time. But the trial cast long shadows. Elena's arraignment in Malaga's courthouse, a modernist slab of glass and steel, drew the family like moths to flame. Victor slouched in the gallery, sober but hollow-eyed. Lydia beside him in pearls that seemed to choke. Cora and I sat front row, her hand a warm anchor in mine, as the prosecutor laid out the case. Tampered locks, forged notes, the oilcloth burial, a botched cover. Elena, in a ill-fitting suit, took the stand, her usual poise cracked. I wanted security, she faltered under cross-exam, voice echoing off marble. Clara was leaving, New York calling. The emeralds were leverage to force a buyout. Lies layered on half-truths. She'd envied my freedom, my abuela's favor, twisting it into theft. My testimony was steel, recounting the note on the car, the empty safe, the unearthed tin. It was family, I said, meeting her eyes across the room. But not love. Cora squeezed my hand, her presence a shield, and when the judge recessed, she pulled me into the hall's alcove, forehead to mine. You're luminous, she breathed. Even here. The verdict came swift. Guilty of conspiracy, 3 years suspended with restitution. Elena's sob from the dock was primal, Victor rising to embrace her as bailiffs led her away. Lydia approached us then, tentative. She's broken, Clara. We all are. Forgiveness isn't free, I replied, Cora's nod echoing mine. But doors aren't locked. Back at the finca, the weight lifted incrementally. Spring unfurled in riots of wildflowers, poppies bleeding red along the senderos, and we threw open the house for an open studio. Artists from Seville to Soho converging, air thick with turpentine and possibility. Cora's will spun ceaselessly, birthing vessels that captured the gorge's wild heart, while I etched labels evoking Abuela's dances, swirling emerald greens on rosado bottles. One afternoon, amid the bustle, Elena arrived, paroled early for good behavior, her knock hesitant as a confessional. I brought this, she said, proffering a sketchpad, pages filled with finca studies from her jail cell, our groves rendered in charcoal remorse. To make amends. If you'll let me. Cora, ever the bridge builder, invited her in. Art heals, she said, handing Elena a lump of clay. We watched as her hands, once destructive, shaped a bowl imperfect but whole. Over ensalada that eve words flowed. Apologies unspooling like threads, my hurts aired without venom. You framed me, I said. But Abuela framed us all in love's image. Tears mingled with vinaigrette, and in that raw exchange bonds tentatively rest-wrung, not pristine but resilient. Yet conflict simmered anew when Lydia proposed a buyout. The vineyard struggling. Sell to me. Keep the house, the memories. Her eyes, softer sans Botox, held genuine plea. But greed's undercurrent lingered. Cora and I debated late into nights, fire crackling in the hearth. It's your legacy, she urged, tracing my palm's lines. But ours now, too. Her love was pragmatic poetry, grounding my flights of doubt, igniting resolve. We countered, partnership, not sale. Shares reallocated per the codicil, Lydia as steward, not sovereign. She balked, then bent, signing in the notary's glow. Rosa would approve, she conceded, a ghost of smile breaking through. Summer peaked in a heat haze, the gorge a shimmering mirage, and our romance crested in a private vow under the ancient olive. The one Abuela called El Corazon. Cora, in a dress of her own weave, hazel eyes luminous, slipped a ceramic ring onto my finger, etched with intertwined vines. In storm or sun, she promised, voice husky. I mirrored her, my band of silver from a Brooklyn jeweler, engraved with fire in veins. Always, I whispered, our kiss sealing it against the world's whims, lips meeting in a dance of equals, hearts sinking like the Sierra's eternal hum. The betrayal's scar faded to silver, a reminder of resilience. Victor, reformed, joined prunes with tales of his follies, his mustache now trimmed with hope. Elena apprenticed under Cora, her pots gaining depth from pain's forge. Family reforged, not flawless but functional, a mosaic of men's. As harvest waned, we walked the mirador, hands linked, the bridge below a testament to spans crossed. What now? Cora asked, head on my shoulder. Everything, I said, pulling her close. With you. But drama's final act loomed unspoken. Abuela's letter, tucked in the codicil's fold, read only now by lantern light. Me, Clara, if trials come, and they will, remember. Love is the true inheritance. Guard it fiercely, for it guards you. Tears fell, Cora's arms enveloping, our sobs a duet of gratitude. In that vulnerability, climax crested, not in courts or groves, but in surrender to joy's quiet roar. We were protected, not by ink alone, but by the unframing of hearts. Autumn's palette deepened the serenia to burnished golds and russets, the air crisp with the promise of rain and renewal. The finca thrived under our stewardship, vines heavy with clusters destined for a limited edition blend, Rose's Fire. Its label a fusion of my bold fonts and Cora's swirling motifs, emeralds hinted in verdant accents. Lydia's partnership steadied finances, her Marbella connections funneling boutique orders, while Victor's expertise honed the yields, his once gruff demeanor softened to grunts of approval. Our life wove richer tapestries. Weekends at the Mercado, Cora haggling over pigments while I charmed buyers with tales of Abuela's dances. Lazy Sundays restoring the old well, hands muddied in tandem, her wink over a spade worth more than gold. Intimacy evolved into sacred ritual. Baths drawn with rosemary from the garden, her fingers massaging tension from my shoulders, conversations drifting from dreams to the mundane, like the best way to brine olives or plot our first joint exhibit in Madrid. Elena's redemption arc unfolded haltingly. Her pots, born of confinement's clarity, sold briskly raw, textured forms that echoed fractured beauty. "You're the catalyst," she told Cora one workshop eve, as flames licked the kiln. "And Clara, you forgave the unforgivable." I overheard from the doorway, heart swelling. Betrayal's ghost exorcised, replaced by tentative sisterhood. Yet the human weave phrase inevitably. News from New York. A gallery offer for my design's solo show in Chelsea arrived like a siren's call, tempting with lights and anonymity. "Go," Cora urged over dinner, her fork pausing midair, hazel eyes steady. "It's your fire, too." Doubt coiled. "And leave this? Us." The gorge outside mirrored my turmoil, depths calling to leaps of faith. She set down her utensil, rounding the table to straddle my lap, hands framing my face. "Love isn't caged, Clara. It's the bridge." Her kiss was conviction, slow and searing, dissolving fears in waves of certainty. We made decisions that night, bodies entwined in affirmation, her above, then me, rhythms syncing like the wheels turn, whispers vowing hybrid paths. Shows that bridged oceans, visits that spanned months. Winter solstice brought the exhibit's fruition. A pop-up in Rhonda's cloister, veins of fire, blending our worlds. Crowds swelled. Expats in loafers, locals and espadrilles, sipping our rosado, oohing over Cora's emerald-glazed urns beside my digital prints of sierras in pixelated storm. Elena manned a booth, her smile genuine. Lydia networked with poise reborn. Victor poured with pride. Amid the throng, Cora pulled me to the cloister's heart, under a canopy of stars peeking through arches. "To Abuela," she toasted, glasses clinking. "And to us, unframed." The climax crested not in spectacle, but in quiet revelation. A letter from Alvarez delivered mid-fate. The final codicil's grace. Scholarships for Elena's art studies. A trust for Victor's recovery. Lydia's villa lien lifted upon ethical stewardship. "Rosa protected all," he wrote, in layers of love. Tears blurred the ink as I shared it. Family clustering in a huddle rare as snow. Hugs exchanged. Awkward then earnest. Elena's "I'm sorry" a mantra, Lydia's "proud of you" a bomb. Humanism's quiet victory. Not erasure of sin but elevation through grace. As the new year dawned, frost limming the Puente Nuevo, Cora and I hiked the gorge's rim, packs light with sketches and clay samples for our transatlantic venture. New York awaited but Rhonda rooted us, love's dual citizenship. At the Mirador we paused, the void below a canvas of possibility. "Framed no more," I said, her hand in mine. "Free," she echoed, pulling me into an embrace that spanned worlds. In the end, Abuela's will wasn't mere paper. It was prophecy, shielding not just assets but souls. We walked on, steps synced, the Sierras whispering approval, our story etched in earth and ether, a testament to love's unyielding frame. And as thunder rumbled distant, promising spring's renewal, I knew betrayal's storm had forged us unbreakable, family reforged in fire's honest light.